The 20th of September. Call this meeting to order. Begin with a roll call vote. Director Betty Doherty,
Here.
Director Donna McLear,
Here.
Director Bob Lux is here, Director Dale Walker,
Here.
Director Mike Wise.
Here.
We have an agenda. So we can begin by having our invocation, Pledge of Allegiance, and then I don't believe we have any public comments today. Doesn't appear so. Okay. Heavenly Father, we come to you today as an assembled body. We humbly request that you bless our meeting, our community, and our nation. Please help us to work for the common good and in the best interest of those who we have been elected to represent. Guide us to be insightful and prudent in our intentions, visions, plans, deliberations, decisions, and their fulfillment. Work through us to provide a spirit of welcome to all in attendance, to engage in respectful and thoughtful dialogue and discussion with understanding, wisdom, and humility. Amen. If you wish, prior to reciting the pledges of allegiance, please take an additional moment of silent prayer or additional reflection in the manner of your preference. Thank you. Pledge of allegiance to the United States flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Pledge to the Texas flag. Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state, under God, one and indivisible. Thank you. Okay. We're to agenda item number 4, to consider and act upon requests for adjustments to or relief from specific charges imposed by the district. Mike?
We have nothing this month.
Very good, sir. We are now to the consent agenda. Are there any questions on the consent? On the consent agenda, which runs from pages 1 with the, let's see. One through 12, I believe there's are the only places. I didn't have any questions. I'd receive a motion to approve the consent agenda as submitted.
I'll make a motion.
Second.
Motion by Director Wise, seconded by Director Doherty to approve the consent agenda as submitted. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Abstain. Motion passes. Very good. Okay. Now, what we all have come here for, agenda items 9. We'll begin with, and then the next one is public hearing.
Okay, so your budget was prepared on the published rate that you authorized to publish, 15.5 cents. We do have August's actuals in there, so we're only projecting for the month of September, for this month. I don't think we got a whole lot of questions or changes on the budget for your district. But we'll open it up for discussion if there's any item you want to discuss in specific, or we'll take a motion to approve the budget as presented.
If there's any discussions, we'll certainly be happy to engage in it. I know this has been thoroughly reviewed and analyzed by everyone, and requests for questions were requested earlier, and as you indicated, Mike, that none had been submitted. Do I have a motion to approve the budget as submitted? I'll make a motion to approve the budget as submitted. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Seconded by trustee Wise. Okay, all in favor, further discussion? Is there any discussion on this matter? If not, all in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. All opposed? Abstain. Thank you. We are now to agenda item 10. Conduct a public hearing regarding the district's intent to levy a 2022 tax rate.
This is where this is a two-step process. Dale and Donna, first go through this with this board. We talked about last month, the adoption of the tax rate is a two-step process. The first is to give notice of your intent to levy a tax rate not to exceed a particular amount. Y'all did that last month. You gave notice through your tax assessor collector to publish in the Conroe Courier of the district's intent to levy a tax not to exceed 15.5 cents. That notice was provided. So now we're back here today for the second half of that two-step process, which is to first conduct a public hearing to receive any comments regarding the proposed tax rate. And then after that, we'll move on to item number 11, which is to actually consider the levy of the district's tax rate. So we actually technically adjourn our regular meeting and open the public hearing for any comments that may be provided regarding the proposed tax rate. So
we will do so. We will go to a special session to conduct a public hearing regarding the district's intent to levy a tax rate. I don't see any representatives here, so we can again resume our scheduled agenda on agenda item number 10. One thing I want to again clarify that Brian mentioned, we are proposing a reduction of our tax rate from 16 cents per $100 worth of assessed evaluation to 15.5 cents. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay.
5.5 cents for maintenance and operations and 10 cents for debt service.
So, is there any, do I have a motion to approve the proposed tax rate? Moved by Director Doherty. Second? Second by Director Wise. Discussion on this matter? Hearing none. All in favor of passing the upcoming year's tax rate at 15.5 cents, a reduction of half a penny, please signify by saying aye. Aye. All opposed? All abstain. Motion passes. Thank you. Okay. Approve an amended form for the district information form.
So that's the document that y'all saw that had the 3 signatures on it. The water code requires that the district have a district information form recorded in the property records that has a lot of factual information about the district on it. It includes your boundary map, it includes your tax rate, it includes the amount of bonds you've been authorized to sell, how many bonds you've issued, et cetera. So anytime that any factual information on that form changes, we have to update it. It also has attached to the form the notice to purchasers that people receive when they buy property in their district, part of their closing document when they buy a house. That document also has factual information, including the district's current tax rate, amount of bonds issued, et cetera. Now that we've adopted our new tax rate for 2022, we have to update that form in the property record. So that way, when it gets pulled for people buying property in the district, they've got the most current information.
So you change it every year.
Every year, and sometimes more than once a year. A district may have a bond issue and change a tax rate or annex property. You know, any of those things that change the factual information, we have to do an update. But today's update is just for the tax rate.
Is this an action item?
It is.
It is. Okay, so we need a motion to, is there a motion to approve the execution of an amended district information form? I'll make that motion. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Seconded by trustee Walker, Director Walker, excuse me. Discussion on this matter? There's none. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. All opposed? Abstain? Motion passes. Thank you. Okay, moving right along. Receiving agenda item 13, receive the San Jacinto River Authority Woodlands Division report, including 4 bullet point items.
Thank you. Monthly operating report is here. One thing to add to that is as of September 1st, we did start the 50% surface water plan to all the Woodlands facilities.
Well done.
That is ongoing. Any questions as far as the information in fact, I'll be happy to.
What was the blend changed from?
35% surface water to 50.
Okay, that's what I thought, but I couldn't remember.
Yes, ma'am.
I do have one question,
Yes,
a bit of a concern on page 24. It indicates that there is an interest in principal payment due on October 1st of $24,925,000, the way that I'll round it up.
yes.
And there's one due on the 4th of April of 23 at 9 million. Are sufficient funds available to, I couldn't find that a space in the budgets that had that $25 million.
My understanding is that we do have the October's payment.
Okay.
And April, I'm not 100% sure to speak on April's. October's, I am aware that we do have that.
Okay.
But if you will, Dan does have some quick updates for y'all.
I'm gonna jump in real quick, Dan. We had some requests on tours. So on page 32, you'll see that we have 2 tours scheduled. One is October 6th of the surface water treatment plant. So you can actually see the process of how we take like water and turn it into drinking water. And then on October 20th, we have a tour of wastewater treatment plant 1. And then tentatively, I'm working on a date, so I will get that to you guys, but also a tour of Bear Branch. So that way you guys can see construction is coming to an end, and so you can see what we've done there and actually take a look at Bear Branch. And then Shelley will be sending out, Jace was on a podcast last week called Hank's Think Tank. And she'll be sending out the link, if you guys want to take a look at that and watch it. It's about an hour and 15
You
minutes.
did a really good job. I watched it.
What do you do?
Did
And I watched all the other guys too.
Director Walker?
Could we add a well to one of these?
Yeah.
So in other words, these are the plans and we have X number of wells here that we pull the subsurface water from. And that's pretty cool. That's pretty intense. And I have the well file, and I think visiting some of these wells would give us a feeling for the other part of the operation. So I was going to ask about these actually, and you answered the question because it's starting to get nice and the weather's going to be a lot nice. It's going to be beautiful for these tours.
Yeah, it's not brutal to be outside.
Correct, exactly.
Yeah, I can put some dates together for that
Yeah.
as well.
Well, anytime, because the wells are easy to get into, right?
Usually, aren't they at the
They're pretty easy to get
at the tanks? They're
Yeah, I mean, we could always visit the water plant where you have the whole.
Where you have the.
Blending, storage tank and a well. and-
Yeah.
Yeah.
5 of them. There's 5 of them, so
Yeah,
just pick
just
one
pick
that's
one.
most convenient.
Exactly, and they're pretty, and I know they're under security and all, and they're good, but, and then the well file also, in other words, showing how it was drilled, how it was completed, the casing, yeah, exactly, and the zone we're operating, we're producing from, and then the history, the well history, if there's been any work on the well, and I think that'd be really instructive. This is all above, sir, all
When it
above
was
ground.
completed and all that.
Yeah, this is above ground, that's below ground, so, thank you.
Yes, sir.
Have y'all been to the dam, the treatment facility out at the dam and done a tour
I think
there?
that's one of the tours.
that's what this one is.
Yeah, I wouldn't miss
On the
it. It is
sticks.
fascinating.
Exactly.
It is just fascinating. the number one thing that impressed me is we have 24-hour people looking at the computer all across the wall, and it's not, bid it out to somebody that's sitting in on their bed in some apartment. And it's a real deal. They're watching to make sure our water is safe. That's a pretty big thing to me.
And it's especially important during
Oh, absolutely.
the season when we're towards the end of the hurricane season. That keeps the lights on, as they say,
Mhm.
most of the time.
Thank you, Summer. Thank you, Dan. You-
So I'll run through a few items here. First one is on the agenda here, the wastewater strategic plan. In your packet on page 33 is one of our progress meeting summaries that took place on August 24th. We actually had a progress meeting yesterday. There's not meeting minutes for that yet, obviously. But really, over the past month and a half, we have been planning for the upcoming stakeholder meetings. When the first one's going to be September 28th. And the agenda for that meeting, which that is an additional stakeholder meeting that was added from the original approach, but we are going to be reviewing with stakeholders and want to receive any input or suggestions on our approach to how we're developing cost estimates and comparing the shortlisted alternatives. So that's getting into, what our inputs are, what our variables are, for example, what we're assuming for percent inflation over the years. And other assumptions that go into these cost estimates, to be able to give stakeholders in the MUDs a understanding of that approach. So when we get to adding the actual numbers piece in November 2nd stakeholder meeting, there should be more discussion on those results and path forward versus questioning the methodology of developing the cost. That's our hope, to really improve the efficiency of looking at these alternatives. One additional topic for the September 28th meeting is we'll have a short presentation on the membrane bioreactor technology. That's something that it's still out there for a couple of the shortlisted alternatives. And we want stakeholders to understand the differences between that technology and our current conventional treatment methods, and pros and cons of each. So we want to give a little bit more background on that so we can make informed decisions. Any questions on wastewater strategic plan?
Is the second meeting in November, still November 8th?
It's November 2nd.
Okay,
Yep,
thank
we
you.
moved that. I forget who picked, it might have been you who pointed that out, but I appreciate that. Moving it from election.
Election day. that's fine.
Yes.
Yeah.
But yes, we did move
I
it.
can't be
Thank
there on
you.
the 28th. So you need to appoint somebody to go. I'm really interested in that membrane thing, but I didn't have it on my calendar.
I'm not gonna be here either, so,
September 28th?
yes. Would you be interested in attending, representing the district, or Mike or Dale?
Dale, you might be more knowledgeable.
It's a lot of stuff, Dale. But the
Oh,
membrane thing is, I really wanted to,
And more than one, just
Unfortunately not.
not just one.
Yeah,
Let's speak
it was
closed
rather
meeting.
contentious, because some, MUDs wanted more than one person to attend, and they were politely
So
told
we
no,
want-
and so.
There can only be one.
give me the information.
And it will be a
You'll go.
PowerPoint presentation that we will provide in the summary for everybody too. So that will-
Where is it going to be held?
I assume at SJRA or
It'll be at our STRA
Yeah.
business office.
on
I think
Sawdust.
we'll be more knowledge-
Sure.
More
28th.
equipped for that.
Yeah, I can go.
yeah, you'll be impressed. And if you want any of my old stuff, I can get it to you.
Great.
We got some people there that do know what they're doing.
So that's why I think, yeah, I should.
I'm interested in it.
Thank you, Dale. Thank you, Don.
You're welcome.
Get me on the list.
Okay, I just told Summer she's gonna set
Yeah,
up
send
for
me all
you.
the
I
stuff.
think he'd be
Right.
better.
Any other questions on wastewater strategic plan? before we move on? There is an agenda item regarding the infrastructure funding. Nothing really new to present on that. We've already talked about Congressman Crenshaw's securing the $3.6 million. Interested in the drainage project, so we threw out the longer term Bear Branch Dam improvements and rehab of the spillway and the upstream slope of that. So we're still just kind of waiting to learn more on when that funding would actually be received, stipulations of all that. So that's out there, and coming. So that's all I had on that item. The next one was Fairbanks Dam repairs. So we presented on this last month and came to y'all regarding some overruns on the quantity of the grouting and the joint sealing. And then furthermore, an additional void was discovered. And our path forward was to, well, let's get out there and fix that. We threw out a number of approximately $60,000, including all that, to be added to the original contract value to cover us. As of yesterday, all the repairs have been made. And there is a final inspection walkthrough scheduled tomorrow. So barring anything that may come up there, we are happy that it is completed. And it don't have all the final numbers yet, but it is going to be under that 60,000 cap that we put on it. And this week, there is a change order on our agenda for our SGRA board of directors for consideration regarding that. So just to remind you, the original contract amount was a little over $107,000. The total revised contract amount is just over $167,000. We should come in a few $1,000 under that. So that's good news. Repairs have been completed.
That's great. Dan, I don't recall ever hearing who the contractor was.
It was Teen Construction, Kean. They have done multiple projects here in the Woodlands Forest before.
Oh, I can sleep at night. I don't have to worry about a breach or anything like that.
No.
Okay, good. No, want to check that. Keep it on simple difference for me.
No, that we were very impressed with their workmanship and timeliness, coordination with this. That is Fairbanks Dam and what was, the valve vault.
Yeah.
So we presented a little information on that at the last meeting. The update is we are moving forward on developing a small procurement package for which should take about 4 to 6 weeks. We'll develop that procurement package and solicit quotes from various contractors to procure and install the new valve vault lid with the fall protection grating and all that. So that is a project we are moving forward with right now.
I don't want to put my fingers into your business, but could it be more cost effectively handled by a change order to this Kean Construction or?
Our plan is to close out this construction project
Okay.
and because they're demobilized and everything.
Oh, they are. Okay.
And the lead
Okay.
time for,
You just answered the question.
Yeah.
They're not on the site anymore.
Correct.
Okay.
and the lead time for the actual physical lid and grading is 6 to 8 weeks. So we don't want to have a contract
Right.
open for that.
I understand.
But we would most likely be going to them for a quote once we get that.
Thank you.
So that's that. And just, I did want to mention one other thing regarding Bear Branch. It is on SGRA's board agenda for this Thursday, the second supplement to the O&M contract. Using SGRA money. So that is up for consideration at our board this week.
That was previously approved by the participant districts late last year, term sheet, and then the agreement was executed at the delegation of authority by the MUDs to Jim. He executed that a year or so ago. So.
Any Bear Branch questions? Want to go to Spring Creek?
Yes, sir. You're on a roll.
So as of right now, don't have a whole lot to update on Spring Creek other than our funding partner stakeholder meeting is scheduled for today at 2 p.m. In person up at our G&A office. There's also a virtual call-in number. And this has been, we've been leading up multiple months to this meeting because we've gone a few months without having a progress meeting. This is where we have worked with our consultant to develop a decision matrix on path forward for the project. So think it's about 6 alternatives that have been laid out, pros and cons of each. We plan to go through those today with the funding partner stakeholders, with the goal of, if not at the end of this meeting, in the very near future, following up with funding partners on what direction are we going. If anybody's interested in that decision matrix, Jim and Mike have a copy of it. Maybe we'll reach out to them.
And you can get the link to the meeting of today, I mean, from you to see it on Zoom
It's
or no.
it's a Microsoft Teams meeting. You want to forward that?
I've got the link if you're interested in
Yeah.
watching it, yeah.
I'm just interested in the 6
I
options.
I'll be online. I won't be going to the G&A building because
I've got the documents. I've
I'll be
taken the documents. I could send you the hard documents.
No,
so you
That'd
wouldn't
be,
have to go
that'd be
through
good. I just want to see the six options. And
Any other questions?
I think we're good, Dan. Thank you very much. Receive the general manager's report, pages 43 through 47. Mike?
Learning and,
Oh, I'm sorry. I got ahead of myself. Excuse me. Thank you for catching me. No need to slight our barrister. Brian, please.
Yes, sir. Couple items there. One, we already touched on the second supplement that is done, as I mentioned. The other item is that staff has asked for us to take a look at policy number RNS 60 that deals with customer defaults and the way that we notify customers before we terminate their water service. The current language in that policy requires that the districts deliver either physical door hangers or notice by certified mail that they're going to be turned off for non-payment. We've looked at, the issue is historically staff has used door hangers for that notification. Cost of that's going up from vendors. So we're trying to see if there's a way to provide adequate notice. Of course, you want to give folks every opportunity, and staff with folks are very accommodating to make sure we don't turn off water unless it's an absolute last resort. But if we get there, want to see if there's a way to provide that required notice in a way that is, as useful to the person who's going to be turned off if they get the notice, but in a more cost-effective way. We've looked at the TCEQ rules, the PUC rules, and case law, and there's no legal requirement that the notice has to be a hand delivery. There's a PUC rule that's not directly applicable to our district, but it's been used as a kind of a guidance reference rule for us that requires that notice be provided by mail or by hand delivery. And so that's what we've based it on for our policy. I think we can probably use another form of mail besides certified mail, because that's easy for somebody to just say, no, not accepting it. And then you get it back and we didn't provide notice. So there's probably some sort of a combination between whether it's just a regular US mail that had enough lead time to reach someone, or 2-day delivery, something like that, but that doesn't require a signature, along with an e-blast or some other electronic notification to someone with the information that they've provided on their application for service. If they've signed up for e-blast or signed up for electronic notifications, they can be notified that way, as well as by mail as an alternative to a hand delivery. So
we've only got emails for about half the residents, right?
Right. And so it may not be possible for everybody, but I think staff is just looking for a way to provide as good of a notice, but not get hit with some of these increases that we're seeing from vendors to do these hand deliveries because of labor costs going up. So we're going to look into that, but if we go that route, we would have a revised policy that would come before each of the MUD boards, because the consolidated policies are approved by all the MUDs, that would have to modify that language to be by delivery or something besides certified mail. So more to come on that, but we wanted to bring that to y'all's attention.
Thank you.
That's all I have under the attorney's report. Happy to answer questions if you have.
Okay, thank you, Brian. Agenda item 16, receive and act upon information regarding the upcoming MCAD Board of Directors election for the term of 2020 2022 to 2023.
This is actually a vacancy. It's not for an election. We had, there was someone from, which school district was it? That had to resign?
Montgomery.
Montgomery ISD. They had someone who stepped down.
Adam
moved out.
Simmons.
Yeah,
Adam
moved out of the
Simmons
district.
resigned.
And so there's a vacancy. So there's an opportunity for the participating entities to nominate someone for that spot. Who is ultimately selected from that pool of nominees is determined at the discretion of the remaining MCAD board. So we put this on all the agendas. It's not for the special purpose district position. So there may be more weight given by the MCAD directors to the school districts that actually have that spot, Montgomery ISD and the other independent school districts in Montgomery County for this spot. We don't know, but we went ahead and put it on all the agendas in case the MUDs had someone they wanted to nominate. We've had 2 board meetings so far and had 2 different people nominated. So I think the more nominees we have, the more we kind of dilute the usefulness of us having the MUDs support somebody. So if
Should we
y'all have
ask who
somebody
those
else-
the nominated people are?
one of them was Walt Lashewski, who's a board member on MUD 1 and has done a lot of volunteer work and in the community. The other, I can't remember what his name was.
Wayne Lasco or?
Someone that one of the board members on Metro knew and thought would be a good fit.
Well, can I make a motion that we support Walt?
Well, it doesn't, I don't, you can.
I mean,
go ahead
how do
and
we handle
approve-
that?
Well, you can approve a nomination form for Walt. So basically what that does is they'll get more nomination forms for one person versus another. Maybe it's persuasive, maybe it's not. They've got discretion, but at least, you've submitted your form.
I would, I think that a board discussion of this matter would be helpful. And if we can make a motion without it having previously been identified as an action item, are we within our rights to?
Yes, it has received an act on.
Oh, okay. So I will second that recommendation for nomination that trustee Doherty made. And I'm fumbling here for the filling of the vacancy of the Board of Trust of Directors. We have a motion. We have a second discussion. My part of the discussion is pretty much what Brian said and what Betty said earlier. I've known Walter a long time. He served for years on the township DRC. And I think that the two agencies are somewhat similar. Some of the encounters that come before the appraisal district are similar to those that the DSC has. And Walt's been very active, and when he does something, he rolls up his sleeves and he gets into it. And he's a hometown hero. And aside from that, I mean, and a MUD director, 2 terms. So
Is this the board that you go in front of when you have a dispute? No?
It's above.
Yeah.
So they have the review folks that actually consider
Individual.
disputes.
they
But
set the
this board
policy
does
and the
not do that.
procedure
This
like,
board approves budgets, and I think is responsible for hiring the chief appraiser, which right now is Tony.
So when I
Which is
can't,
his last name.
so when I can't agree with the individual appraiser agent I'm working with, and I go in front of a group, that's not this.
That's
board.
not him.
Okay.
That's not him. And he can't, the members of this board can't consult with individuals on their particular challenge at MCAD. So to kind of keep that line of separation.
Does this board of directors, what do they have to do with getting that board that we go in front of for appeals? Are they involved with
No,
nothing?
no, they handle the budget, which, of course, is going to be necessary to staff to make sure that appeals can be heard in a timely fashion and all that, but they're not involved in the individual appeals themselves.
If I may ask, who does that?
wouldn't they set policy and procedure not procedure, policy and direction, but not ways and means, policies and
That's
procedures.
a little more into the weeds than I could speak to
Yeah.
off the cuff. I mean, we do have, we're fortunate in the Woodlands that we do have one representative who's already on the board, Arthur Breeda Hall. So that's a question we could, of course, ask him from his experience on that board, but I couldn't really speak to that off the cuff.
I guess, well, pardon me.
I don't know if it's appropriate, but I'd like to know, how do those, the appeal board that we go in front of when we got a dispute, how do those people get put on that board? Do we know?
I think we could ask Arthur if he can
You don't
come
know
and
that.
and attend.
I'd like to know that, because I don't think the Woodlands gets treated properly in that area when, I've been involved with that a couple of times. And if they find out from the Woodlands, they're not about to give you any break, and you find out from somewhere else in Montgomery County, they're very likely to give you a big break.
Isn't that through the commissioners? That-
Yeah,
that- I know
don't
they
wanna-
appoint somebody to one of the appraisal
Yeah.
boards.
That's been
I think one of them serves on the
I think we're
appraisal
kind of getting
board.
outside of what this agenda
Yeah.
item was. We could put an item on there and have a more, thorough discussion about MCAT if y'all want
This
to talk
gentleman
about that.
approached us, if you recall,
Correct.
Mr. Belinsky,
About
Belinoski.
about an increase in their budget. I
Right.
remember that. That was what?
Seems like a delightful guy. I mean, I think he's very approachable. I'm sure he'd be happy
We could
to.
ask him to attend.
Sure.
Talk about how those boards are
Yeah.
populated and any
We
perception.
do that on agenda item 21,
Yes.
future.
How they
Very
are populated, we might add, so it isn't too narrow, so we don't go outside like we are right now. But I like to have a broad discussion.
Yeah, we can ask Jeannie to invite him. We can talk about that under item 21.
Yeah.
At 16, do y'all, I think, taking a motion in a second, if y'all want to appoint someone to the board of directors and then.
I guess because he has already been nominated by MUD One, ours would be more in a supportive position. And I hopefully it wouldn't, it wouldn't dilute it would, I think, merely show a small bit of support.
Correct.
Okay.
I don't know the man, so I can't easily say that everybody feels pretty strongly about that. I could vote for that.
Well, we have a motion, we have a second. We've had discussion, further discussion. All in favor signify by, to approve the motion submitted by Director Doherty. Signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Abstain? Motion passes. Thank you. Let's see, 17 GM report. Now we can do it,
Now
Mike.
we're here.
Yeah,
Couple things.
caught up there.
Trustee meeting last week, we did have two gentlemen that are running for vacant spots on the Lone Star Groundwater Conservation Board come speak at Director Lux's request. He opened the meeting to any candidates. We did have those two fellows show up. John Yours is the MUD director on MUD 46. He is running for the Woodlands position. And he is running, kind of teamed up with there's a kind of a campaign objective paper that they've enclosed in the packet with James Ridgway, who is running for the Precinct 3 position, which is James Noack's spot. So I encourage you to read that. I'm not endorsing anybody, but they did make the effort to attend and explain their reasons for running, and they've written a paper and outlined their campaign objectives, and I think it's worthwhile. There's not a whole lot else in the packet. If you got questions.
In addition to
Yeah.
that, there is at 6:30 this evening, a Quadvest sponsored forum in conjunction with Studio 13. Hank Think Tank,
Think
whatever
Tank.
the heck his name is,
He's moderating. that.
Hank on or whatever. But anyways, on the speaking lineup will be Simon Skata, James Ridgway, Webb Melder, James Spigner, and I don't know the gentleman's first name, but Mr. Pickrell, who is currently on the board. So I don't understand how you do this. It's been pretty well advertised through Facebook, and I'm not sure if there will be a live stream on Facebook.
It's in New Caney, I
It's in New
believe.
Caney at the Randall Reed,
Center.
Community building.
which is,
It's right next to the stadium
yeah, it's in the
of the
stadium.
same name.
It's in the stadium, I believe. Community Center 21580 Loop 492, New Caney. And if you have the time and the inclination, it's probably going to be very, as well as following up with Jace's presentation on Hank's think tank, this may be very enlightening as well. We have an opportunity for 2 directors. All the other directors are running unopposed. And if you live in precinct 3, as a number of us do, which is James Nowak's precinct, that will be represented hopefully by, or potentially, not hopefully, potentially by Mr. Ridgway.
I think Bob Lilac is going from Mud One and he's looking for riders.
I'm going.
Are you going?
I'm taking some ladies, the water babies who go to all the water meetings. Water ladies, excuse me. We forget we're not babes anymore.
Let's see, looking through here, I don't remember if I had anything. Okay. Very good. Thank you, Mike.
Yes. Any questions? I'd be happy to answer those.
Would you be so kind as to also do the trustees report? I'd be happy to assist if needed.
Sure, sure. As we said, John George and James Ridgway did come, and spoke and passed out their written objectives. We've already discussed, the budget. We've really discussed everything in there. Hildebrandt's discussed the strategic plan. Brian's already discussed reviewing policy RNS 60. John Geiger, who's replaced Bob Daly, is looking for ways to drive more people to the customer portal, get their email addresses, get them signed up. So he'll be working on a campaign to get that out there. He was at the Mud One meeting, but I don't see him here today.
Also, as Mr. Williams stated earlier, we're now doing a 50-50 blend of surface and groundwater as inquired by Director McAleer, which is taking a long time to get there. Thanks a lot. Thanks a lot for all the magic that you did at the treatment plant to keep that cost so cost effective.
Yeah.
Amazing. Any questions on the trustees report? I'll be happy to assist Mike in answering. Thank you. Hearing no questions, we'll move on to, do we need to recess, Brian? Okay. Discuss matters for placement on future agendas. Obviously, we're going to invite the MCAD Chief Appraiser, Mr. Belanowski. Is there anything else that we need to?
I have a question.
Yes, ma'am.
Well, I'm having a hard time reading this, so I'll get a clear copy from Shelley.
Oh.
But is this related to the thing we went to at Rob Fleming, where all the experts were standing around with those flip charts for us to give them any information that we knew about flooding? Is that
That would be
that
Mr.
related?
Hildebrand's avenue, but I believe that's the same group, Betty.
I'm afraid I can't speak.
Yeah, I don't know.
okay?
I think it is.
But it was.
Think it is?
It was far greater than just the Spring Creek detention study. It
It
was
all over
more
the place,
regional.
yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
So would
And
we
I
say it
think
was
you're on
like
track.
H? Is that what they had, for all of the H area or, anyway, I'll read it and ask more questions
Referred to
later. I
as
just couldn't.
Region 6. Yeah, it is difficult. A
Yeah.
lot of,
Okay, I'll, mostly it's the pictures, you know, I look at the
Mhm.
pictures. It's hard to see. So I'll get that from Shelley. Thank you.
you're welcome. We don't have any additional items for placement on future agendas. I will move that we adjourn this meeting. Do I have a second for the
I'll second that.
Oh, very good. You.
So I know we don't do flooding